Okay, this is level 2 of XEI 504. Number 4 and 5 are going to be similar to some of the ones that you saw in level 1. Again, you have to be able to identify what it's asking you to do. So in this case, sum means add. In number 5, difference means subtract. So here, number 4 is set up similarly to number 1, where you're just going to go ahead and do 4x to the 4th minus 2x squared plus 5x cubed minus 1 plus 7x, and add that to this second expression here, 2x squared minus, sorry, that's a 2, 7x to the 3rd plus x minus 6. Fix that too. There we go. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and look for the biggest exponent of x. This is a good way to organize your work. The biggest exponent here is 4x to the 4th. So 4x to the 4th is the only power that's to the 4th power. So 4x to the 4th stands on its own, isn't combined with anything. Alright, let's look for the next highest power, and that's going to be this guy right here. Positive 5x to the 3rd and negative 7x to the 3rd is minus 2x to the 3rd. 5 minus 7 is negative 2. Alright. Negative 2x squared and positive 2x squared. Now you need to be really careful here. If you have, right here, if you have a negative of something and a positive of the exact same thing, they cancel each other out. That's like adding 0, which you don't actually need to add. So if you have opposites and you're adding them, they cancel. For example, negative 2x squared plus 2x squared. That's going to be like 0, which you don't have to write. So those cancel each other out. And then we have 7x and x. That's like a 1x, so that's plus 8x. And then we have negative 1 and negative 6, which is negative 7, and that would be your final answer right there. The biggest mistake that I see, again, is the opposites need to cancel. A lot of people try to still put it in there, so just be really careful there. Alright, now when you're working with something like number 5, there's a couple ways to approach it, but a good first step is to write out your first term. And then it says difference, so we want to subtract this whole second term over here. So we need to take this whole thing over here and subtract it. So 4x minus 3x to the 5th minus 5x to the 3rd plus x squared minus 3. And you'll notice that I use parentheses, and these are really important because we're subtracting that entire thing, not just the first part of it, but the whole thing. So be really careful there. The next step is to just simplify. So distribute this 2. That's going to be 6x to the 5th minus 4x plus 8x squared, and then plus 2 comes down. And then distribute this negative 1. So that's minus 4x plus 3x to the 5th plus 5x to the 3rd minus x squared plus 3. And notice I'm being really careful with this negative here. Make sure that you distribute it all the way through. All right, now I'm going to combine like terms. So anytime I'm going to start with the biggest exponent. So here's the biggest exponent right here, is x to the 5th. So 6x to the 5th and 3x to the 5th give me 9x to the 5th. I've used it, so I'm going to scribble it out. All right, next biggest exponent is 5x to the 3rd. And there's nothing to combine that with, so it just cancels out. Now x squared comes next. 8x squared minus x squared, that's like a minus 1. So plus 7x squared. Negative 4x and negative 4x is negative 8x. And then positive 2 and positive 3 is positive 5. So this here is the final answer. All right, that is the first part of level 2. The second part is a bit more complicated, and it has to do with multiplying out expressions. So I'm going to do a couple with you, and then you're going to have the other ones to do on your own. You can check them with me if you'd like. I'm going to show you a couple of strategies here. And the first one is just making sure you distribute everything to everything else. So method 1 is distribution. So you're going to take every term from the first one and distribute it to every term from the second one. So x squared times 2x is 2x to the 3rd. Exponent rules apply here. So x squared times x gives you this x to the 3rd. That's important. X squared times 4 is 4x squared. Now that we've used the x squared, we can move on to the other parts. So I'm going to do a different color here. 2x times 2x. 2 times 2 is 4. X times x is x squared. 2x times 4 is 8x. All right, now we've used this 2x up. All right, now I'm going to do the negative 6. Negative 6 times 2x is negative 12x. Negative 6 times 4 is negative 24. Once you've gotten to this point, it's a matter of combining like terms. So that's the highest exponent, so 2x to the 3rd can't combine with anything. Positive 4x squared. Positive 4x squared is positive 8x squared. Positive 8x and negative 12x is going to give you minus 4x. And then minus 24 is on its own. And that would be your answer there. All right. A second method would be the box method. For this method, you need to set up your boxes so that the number of terms here is going to be across either the top or the side, it doesn't matter. So you need 3 slots here. Alright, so this is where your 2x to the 3rd minus 4x plus 1 would go. And then on the side, you're going to have each term 3x squared plus x minus 4 on the side. And then each of these boxes comes from multiplying the thing up and to the left. So 2x to the third times 3x squared, 2 times 3 gives you 6, and x squared times x to the third is x to the fifth. Remember, when you're multiplying, you're adding those exponents. Okay? As long as you fill in all these boxes, the order doesn't really matter. So I'm going to do this box. X times 2x to the third is 2x to the fourth. Now this box. Negative 4 times 2x to the third is negative 8x to the third. Alright, now I'm going to do this box. So I'm going to use this one and this one. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. X squared times x, that makes 3x's. X to the third. Alright, I'm going to do this middle box. 1x times negative 4x is negative 4, and then I have 2 x's there. Alright, I'm going to do this box. Negative 4 times negative 4x. Negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16, and I have 1x. And then, now I'm going to do this row. 3x squared times 1 is just 3x squared. X times 1 is just x. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Now, straight from the boxes, we can look for like terms. So our biggest exponent is right here, and it does not have any like terms, so I'm just going to rewrite it. 6x to the fifth. 6x to the fifth. Alright, and then I've used it, so I'm going to scribble out that box. The next biggest exponent is right here. Again, no like term, so I'm just going to add it right on. And then scribble out that box. Now, x to the third is the next biggest, and we're going to combine those. Negative 8 and negative 12 is negative 20. X to the third, and then scribble it out. Okay, now we have negative 4x squared, and positive 3x squared is going to be minus 1x squared, and you can actually just write that as minus x squared if you like. This is like a 1x, so 16x and 1x is 17x. You're just adding here, and then minus 4. And that would be your final answer. Now you can use whatever method you'd like. This is just a good way to organize it. I don't think one way is faster than the other, but this is definitely more organized. The one other thing I want you to do, I want you to see on your own. But just the setup for this one, make sure that you write it out. This square means it's multiplied by itself. And then finish on your own. All right. Last question in level 2. First, we need to know what it's asking us. All right. What polynomial must be added to this so that the sum is this? So what it's asking us is, how can we get from this guy to this guy using addition? So here's how you set this up. 2x to the third minus 4x squared plus 8x minus 1. plus what gives you, and you're going to line up each of these with the like terms. So x cubed goes here. I do not have an x squared, so I'm going to leave a blank spot there. Minus 2x plus 9. And in the blank spot here, kind of have like a plus 0. So we want to know what's going to give us each of these. Now let's look carefully. What do you have to add or subtract from 2x cubed to get you to 1x cubed? Well, you'd have to subtract 1x cubed. Okay? Now, how can you get from negative 4x squared to 0? Well, this is like that example where you have to add the opposite. So do the opposite. Negative 4x, we're going to do a positive instead. How can we get from positive 8x to negative 2x? Well, we would have to subtract 10x. And finally, from negative 1 to positive 9, you'd have to add 10. Now your answer here, and make sure you mark it as your answer, is going to be this expression right here, that polynomial. So this is your answer. All right, that's it for level 2. Please call me over if you have questions.